They thought silence would suffocate me. They thought the dirt would hide what they'd done. But the truth is, you can't bury a soul that was born from storms. You can only push it deeper until it becomes the very ground you walk on. There's a moment in every man's story where the world decides he's finished, where the people he bled for stand around his grave, pretending to mourn, while secretly breathing easier knowing he's gone. That was my moment. The day they turned their backs, the day loyalty became a ghost, and betrayal wore a familiar face. I remember the sound, the closing of the door. It wasn't loud, it was quiet. So quiet it felt like the air itself refused to carry my name anymore. They didn't stab me, they didn't scream at me, they just left. And sometimes that's a slower death than the blade. I gave everything I had. Time, trust, devotion, thinking loyalty was a crown, not realizing it was a chain. And when I finally fell, they didn't reach down. They dug the hole deeper. They smiled as the soil covered my chest, each handful of dirt feeling like another goodbye. They didn't kill me. They buried me alive. But that's the thing about the buried. You can't see what's still breathing underneath. The darkness wrapped around me like a shroud. The cold crept in slow, not just into my skin, into my thoughts. You start to believe maybe they were right. Maybe you deserved to be forgotten. Maybe silence is your sentence. The air got thinner. The heartbeat slowed. Every breath tasted like dust and regret. Every memory felt like a stone pressed against my ribs. I could feel the weight of the world, literally, the soil pressing down, compressing every ounce of hope I had left. But even as the dirt claimed me, something inside refused to die. Something ancient, something primal. You see, betrayal doesn't just break you, it rewires you. It takes the soft parts, love, trust, faith, and forges them into something unrecognizable. And as I lay there, under layers of silence, I started to understand. They didn't bury me in a coffin, they buried me in a crucible. Every grain of soil that pressed against my body wasn't killing me. It was molding me. It was teaching me what the fire had failed to. When the world burns you, you scream. When it buries you, you listen. And I listened to the heartbeat beneath the silence, to the faint hum of rage awakening in the dirt, to the whispers of the forgotten, the ones the world threw away who clawed their way back as legends. That's when I realized something. They never took my life. They gave me my silence. And silence is the forge of kings. The ground that was meant to swallow me became my armor. The shadows that were meant to consume me became my kingdom. Because there's something sacred about being broken by those you love. It strips away everything unnecessary. It leaves only truth, raw and vicious. And the truth was this: I didn't belong among the loyal. I didn't belong among the living. I belonged beneath, where roots grow and storms are born. The soil began to pulse with my heartbeat. The darkness, instead of suffocating, started to breathe with me. I could feel the rage growing roots. Not the kind that choke, but the kind that hold you steady. Deep, anchored, unstoppable. And while they laughed above, While they toasted to my end, I was down there, learning the ancient language of the earth. Patience, pain, and rebirth. Every betrayal, every silence, every scar became a seed. And I was learning how to grow in hell. Because that's what they never understood. You can't bury a man who has already died once. You can't break a soul that made peace with the dark. They thought they'd end me with dirt. They didn't realize I am the dirt. The same ground they walk on. The same foundation that will one day swallow their names whole. They built a grave, but I built a kingdom in it. They lowered me in silence, but I rose in storms. And now, every step they take echoes through me. Every victory they claim is rooted in the soil that carries my name. Because I am not gone. I am not forgotten. I became the silence they fear. The ground beneath their trembling feet. The voice that rises through the cracks they thought would hold me. They didn't kill me. They crowned me with the earth. They buried me in darkness, but the soil learned my name. And now, even the roots whisper it like prophecy. There comes a moment when even your own heartbeat sounds foreign. When your name, once carried by voices and echoes, becomes a memory even to you. That's when you know the world has truly forgotten you. It's not loud, it's not dramatic, it's quiet. A quiet so deep it feels like the air itself has given up your existence. You try to scream, but there's no one left to hear it. No eyes to see you, no hands to reach down. The dirt above becomes the sky you'll never touch again. And every breath feels like a confession that you once believed in people who never believed in you. Down there, the silence isn't peaceful. It's a mirror. It reflects everything you tried to bury inside yourself. The doubts, the guilt, the questions that bleed even when the blade is gone. I replayed it all, every betrayal, every smile that hit a knife, every "I've got you" that turned into "you're on your own." There's a special kind of agony in realizing the people who killed your spirit still walk around calling themselves good. The silence makes you see it all clearly. The masks, the hypocrisy, the way loyalty dissolves the moment you stop being useful. And in that clarity, you don't find peace. You find emptiness, the kind that doesn't ask for comfort, only endurance. You learn that loneliness isn't the absence of people. It's the absence of understanding. It's when you scream in your soul and no one hears, not because they can't, but because they never cared to listen. I used to chase noise, validation, recognition, but down there in the dark, the noise dies, the applause fades, and all that's left is the echo of who you used to be. You start to talk to yourself, not out of madness, but survival, because your voice becomes the only proof that you still exist. Each whisper becomes a heartbeat, each breath, a rebellion. You say things you never said before, truths you were too afraid to face when the world was watching. Like how love made you blind, how loyalty made you weak, how forgiveness became a cage you built with your own hands. You begin to see the pattern, how every time you trusted too deeply, you carved your own tomb a little wider. But something happens in the suffocation. When pain stretches long enough, it changes shape. It becomes something quieter, harder, sharper. You stop begging for rescue. You stop praying for light. You stop needing to be found. That's when the silence shifts. It stops mocking you. It starts molding you. Because what they don't tell you about darkness is that it listens. It studies you. It tests you. It waits to see if you'll crumble or if you'll grow roots. The soil that once suffocated you begins to warm. You start to feel its pulse, a slow, ancient rhythm, older than pain, older than betrayal. It whispers, breathe. At first, you think it's your imagination. Then you realize it's your will, the last part of you they couldn't bury. You breathe in the silence. It hurts. It tastes like dust and defiance. But it's real. It's yours. And in that one breath, something changes. The panic fades. The tears dry. The weakness dies. You become still. Not because you've given up, but because you've evolved. That's when the world above truly loses you. They think they've moved on. They think they've buried a memory. But what they've really done is awaken something the world isn't ready for. I used to think silence meant defeat. Now I understand. Silence is strategy. It's the cocoon before the rebirth. The inhale before the roar. So I stopped fighting it. I let the silence hold me. I let it tear away every illusion I ever had about love, loyalty, mercy. Because in the stillness, I found what I was made of. And it wasn't kindness. It wasn't hope. It was rage. Purified. Rage with patience. Rage with purpose. Rage that had learned to wait. That's when I stopped being human. Humans crave validation. Humans chase forgiveness. But the buried, we chase transformation. They think time heals. No, time hardens. It makes the scars permanent. It turns tears into armor. And every second spent forgotten was a second I spent becoming something unrecognizable. When the world forgot my name, I stopped needing it. Because names fade, but essence endures. I became something deeper, something rooted, something that no storm could reach. They'll never understand what silence does to a man, how it kills the boy begging for love and births the beast who builds empires from graves. I was no longer praying for rescue. I was praying for patience, for the right moment to rise. Not as who I was, but as what I became. And when I do, the world will see what they created. Not a victim, not a martyr, but a monument. Built from the bones of every betrayal that tried to bury me. In the silence where they left me to die, I didn't fade. I evolved. The grave they built became my womb. Pain has a way of feeding itself. At first, it gnaws at you. Then, when you stop resisting, it starts to nourish you. Down there in the dark, I stopped trying to escape. I stopped clawing at the coffin walls of my past. Instead, I listened. I felt. I let the earth swallow my pain whole. Every heartbeat was a drumbeat against the soil. Every tear, a seed, and every betrayal, fertilizer for what I was becoming. They thought they buried me to end me, but they forgot what grows in darkness. They forgot that pressure doesn't just crush. It creates. It forges. It transforms. So I stopped calling it suffering. I started calling it evolution. Because the truth is, the earth doesn't care about your pain. It only knows what to do with it. It takes decay, takes rot, takes what's broken, and turns it into life. That's what I became. Life born from death. A storm rooted in the very dirt that was meant to kill me. My tears became rivers beneath the ground. My rage became roots that twisted deeper, reaching for strength the surface had never shown me. Every memory that once burned me alive became fuel for my rebirth. And slowly, I began to change. Not in the way people do, not softer, not healed. No, I changed like metal does in flame. The impurities burned out, the core left stronger. I whispered to the soil, "You thought this was a grave, but this is a garden." I could feel the truth in it. The same way pain becomes clarity when you stop fighting it. The same way silence becomes music when you finally hear your own heartbeat. I wasn't the man they buried. That man died the moment the dirt hit his chest. What remained was something older, something raw, stripped of illusion, fueled by the ashes of trust and the marrow of rage. I began to understand that pain doesn't destroy you. It introduces you to yourself. The world only sees the rise, but they never understand the roots that had to grow in hell first. They never see the wars fought in silence, the nights when the only thing keeping you alive is the promise of one more breath. I fed the earth with my anger, and the earth, it fed me patience. That's how the transformation began. Not through revenge, not through hatred, through acceptance of what was taken and what could never be taken again. Because once you've lost everything, what else is there to fear? Once you've died in silence, what power does death have left? The soil began to move with me. The air grew heavier, charged. It was as if the darkness itself recognized me, not as a victim, but as one of its own. I could feel the rage growing quietly beneath my ribs, not screaming anymore, but pulsing. Steady, rhythmic, alive. No longer chaos. Now, control. Because true power isn't loud. It's the storm you never see coming. It's the flame that burns without smoke. I started to smile again. Not the kind born of joy. The kind born of realization. The kind that comes when you understand you've become the very thing they feared you'd never survive to be. I whispered into the dirt, "Bury me again, and I'll bloom higher." The earth trembled at that truth, because it knew now I wasn't fighting to escape. I was growing, and growth is the quietest form of rebellion. No anger wasted on the unworthy, no energy spent proving myself. Just roots, deeper, stronger, unstoppable. Every betrayal that once haunted me became a landmark on the path of my evolution. Every scar became scripture carved into my being, reminding me of what I endured and what I'll never become again. The soil that once suffocated me now bowed to me. It held my story within it, like a sacred secret the world had yet to uncover. They thought they buried pain. They didn't realize. They planted purpose. And when purpose takes root in a man, you can't kill him. You can only delay him. Because no matter how deep you bury purpose, it finds a way back to the light. It always does. And that's what I became. a force that didn't need light to grow. I thrived in darkness. I breathed in silence. I found power in stillness. That's what they never expected. They thought my rage would burn me alive. Instead, I learned to harness it, to tame it, to let it flow through me like veins of molten gold beneath the surface. That's how I knew I was no longer broken. I was becoming elemental, something the world couldn't categorize or contain. Not man, not monster, something in between. A creature born from betrayal, raised by silence and crowned by rage. They wanted to bury a mistake. Instead, they planted a legend. They fed me dirt and called it death. But I drank the darkness, and it made me eternal. There is a silence that comes after pain. It's not peace. It's not forgiveness. It's rebirth. The kind of silence where the universe stops speaking because it's waiting to see what you'll become. I remember that moment. The stillness after the storm inside me died. No anger, no tears, just an infinite calm. The kind that comes after you've accepted death and decided to rise anyway. The soil around me was still, cold, but it no longer felt like an enemy. It felt like a womb, like it was holding me. Not to bury, but to build. And for the first time, I didn't want to escape it. I wanted to emerge from it. Different, transformed, unrecognizable. They buried me thinking I'd rot. But decay is just another form of becoming. When the old self dies, the new one begins to breathe. That's what happened. Somewhere in the suffocating darkness, I felt a flicker. Not light, not warmth, but awareness. A pulse beneath the silence. A reminder that something inside me still moved, still lived, still wanted to rise. It wasn't hope. Hope is fragile. It was will, ancient, quiet, unstoppable. And I could feel it, spreading through every scar, every shattered piece of who I was. My pain had decomposed into power. My rage had turned into roots. And those roots were now splitting through the ground. The same ground they buried me in. Every betrayal became a nutrient. Every silence became soil. Every scar became a signal, telling the world, I am still here. And beneath that world of noise and illusion, something began to move. Me. I rose slowly, not with screams, not with vengeance, but with purpose, with the quiet grace of inevitability. Because the thing about rebirth is, it doesn't announce itself. It happens in secret, while no one's watching, while the world sleeps and the forgotten grow in shadows. That's what I became. Growth in the dark, unseen, unstoppable. They thought the darkness would consume me, but darkness is where stars are born, and I was learning to burn in it. My heartbeat returned, heavier now. It didn't echo fear anymore. It echoed power. Each thud of my chest sounded like thunder rolling beneath the earth. The soil trembled, the silence shifted, and I knew something inside me had awakened that would never sleep again. Because the man they buried was gone. That man was fragile, trusting, human. What rose in his place was something elemental, born of betrayal, forged by solitude, and fed by pain until it became strength. I inhaled the darkness and exhaled control. I didn't just want to rise. I wanted to own the ground I rose from. They called it a grave. I called it the beginning. Because this time, I wasn't returning as who I was. I was returning as what they made me. My voice, once a whisper begging to be heard, now carried the weight of prophecy. I didn't need to shout anymore, because power doesn't ask to be noticed. It simply exists, and the world adjusts to it. You can't bury evolution. You can only delay it. And every second they thought I was gone, I was rebuilding. In silence, in patience, in purpose. I wasn't rising to prove them wrong. I was rising to prove that I could never truly be erased. That's the secret they'll never understand. You don't come back from death to fit in. You come back to rule. When the old self finally dissolves, what's left isn't mercy. It's clarity. It's precision. It's power without noise. So I rose quietly, not from the ashes, but from the roots, not to be seen, but to be felt. The same world that buried me will one day tremble beneath me. Because when you rise from the soil, you carry its strength, its patience, its permanence. And that's what I became. A force that no longer feared loss, no longer sought validation, no longer begged for light. The Siatiat first breath after death isn't air. It's realization that you've become everything they feared you'd never survive to be. That the grave they built for you has become your throne. The man they buried is gone. What's rising now doesn't breathe light. It commands it. There comes a moment when the silence breaks, not with sound, but with presence. When the air itself begins to vibrate, as if it knows something sacred has awakened beneath it. That was the moment I returned. Not crawling, not begging, but becoming. They thought they buried me in weakness, but weakness doesn't decay. It transforms. It ferments in the dark, and when it rises, it's no longer weakness, it's will. I didn't come back to the surface as a man. I came back as the soil itself. Everything that grows must pass through me first. Every life, every empire, every seed of ambition, they all feed on what I've become. Because I am what remains when everything else rots. I am the ground beneath their triumphs, the silence beneath their noise, the force beneath their feet. You can destroy a body, you can bury a name, but you can't kill what becomes the foundation. They don't realize the soil remembers every betrayal that fell upon it. Every tear that sank into it, every drop of blood that cried for vengeance, it remembers, and I carry that memory now. Every pain, every scar, every moment of despair that turned into discipline. They thought I would be forgotten. Instead, I became the thing they stand on. They walk above me now, blind to the fact that I'm everywhere. Beneath their victories, beneath their smiles, beneath the roots of every empire they build. Because that's the truth of resurrection. It doesn't mean you rise as you were. It means you rise as what they can never be. I became the soil, and through me, life moves, power breathes, kingdoms grow and decay. But I remain. They took everything they could, my trust, my love, my identity, but they forgot the one thing they could never take. My endurance. The soil doesn't fight the storm. It absorbs it. It takes the thunder, the fire, the rain, and turns them all into strength. That's what I did. Every insult became a root. Every lie became a layer. Every loss became nutrient. So when they look down and wonder why their world trembles, it's because the soil beneath them remembers. It's because I'm no longer buried. I am the ground itself. You can't destroy the foundation. You can't burn the earth. Even when scorched, it regenerates. Even when split open, it heals itself. And that's what I am now. Unburnable, unbreakable, eternal. When I rose, I didn't rise with fire in my eyes. I rose with stillness in my soul. The kind of stillness that terrifies those who've never met peace after war. Because silence isn't weakness anymore, it's command. When I speak now, the earth listens. When I walk, the air shifts. When I look upon what once broke me, it bows. I realized something sacred. They thought I was beneath them, but beneath is where the roots live. Beneath is where power sleeps. Beneath is where kings are forged. They reached for crowns made of gold. I became the ground that swallows empires. I am not the man they betrayed. I am the soil that swallows betrayal whole. I am the silence they fear when the noise fades. I am the weight beneath their steps, reminding them softly that everything returns to me in the end. Every empire crumbles. Every name fades. Every body returns to the ground. And when it does, I'll be waiting. Not out of hatred, out of order, out of balance, out of the eternal truth that what grows from pain cannot be undone by it. My veins pulse with the rhythm of the earth. My heart beats with thunder beneath the crust. My soul stretches across mountains and valleys. I have no limits now. And when I finally rose from that grave, I didn't bring vengeance with me. I brought inevitability, because vengeance fades, but inevitability lasts forever. You can't stop what's rooted. You can't kill what's already become the earth itself. They thought they destroyed me. They had no idea they were cultivating me. Now, when they plant new dreams, I decide what grows. When they build new towers, I decide what stands. When they carve their names into stone, I wait patiently for the day their stones crack and fall back to me. I am not reborn. I am redefined. I am not alive. I am beyond life. Because when you become the soil, you stop needing validation from the living. You become the unspoken law of existence. Everything that rises does so through you. And as I stand now, no crown, no throne, no followers, just stillness, power, and eternity. I realized something profound. I never needed to rise above them. I only needed to rise within what they tried to bury. They can't kill what became the ground itself. Because I'm not the echo of pain anymore. I'm the heartbeat beneath every silence. I am everywhere they step, and they'll feel me. With every fall, with every loss, with every silence that swallows their name. They thought they buried me, but I became the soil. And now, I feed the world that tried to starve me. They buried me beneath their lies, but the ground they walk on now beats with my pulse.